on over. But we just slide
Good
him to the
evening,
other-
everyone. We are going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thank you for your patience. We were a few minutes late coming out from work session, so we appreciate that. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:09, and will you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Thank you so much. And Dr. Crabtree is already on her way up to get us started on our staff recognition.
The Ladue School's Excellence in Education program aims to recognize members of our certified staff who have gone consistently above and beyond for students, colleagues, and their school community. Tonight, we are pleased to recognize Katie McKenna, our English as a Second Language specialist at Conway Elementary School and the high school this year. Katie is someone I had the pleasure of working with last year. There's a massive group here showing up on conference week when teachers are going to have a very long night Wednesday night. And they had a long night last week and coming for another night because Katie is amazing. Her smile and warmth and kindness brightens everyone's day, not just the adults, but also from the students. This year, when we had an additional need at our high school for an English as a second language support without a second beat, Katie went from going from the early childhood center to the high school, working with our youngest learners to our oldest learners, and she's been an invaluable support. So this amazing video will highlight why Katie was selected for our prestigious Excellence in Education Award. And then immediately following the video, we'll hear from Dr. Tom Devitt, Conway's principal, who will share more about Katie and why she was selected as the March Excellence in Education honoree. Let's take a look.
Sprinkles, sprinkles. More sprinkles.
Katie is the ESOL teacher here. She services students in kindergarten through 4th grade, and she works with students who have either just newly come to the United States or students who might speak a different language at home.
She pushes into different classrooms and pulls out different students, so it's always a support to those kids and to those teachers. So she means a lot just in what she does for her kids and for the staff.
I think she is just kind of a lot of kids' trusted adult in the building because she makes everyone feel safe. With her kindness and her thoughtfulness. When anybody is talking to her, students or adults, she just really listens and pours herself into it.
She's just such a joy to the students. She is their biggest advocate and cheerleader. She's always doing what's best for them.
Katie is the definition of someone who makes everybody feel like a somebody. And she does that through her inclusivity with her students and staff as well. She's always making sure that she is working closely with students and their families so that they feel that this is a home away from home, even if there is a language barrier.
She's kind of that first welcoming face. Anytime we have a new family, we had one that came from China 3 days prior. They had just arrived, and then they came to do a tour, and so she was one of the people that helped to give that tour. Just be that sense of, love and connection, and just making them feel like we really want them to be here, and we're going to support their child and love them and see them when they're with us.
Katie means so much to the staff and building and community of Conway and the Ladue School District. She is always lending an extra hand.
She volunteers to assist with our Conway chorus. She's just the sort of person who says, I would love to help with whatever is going on.
She's in charge of our passport night here at Conway, and it's a huge success, and it's directly a result of her dedication.
She helps with our character ed committee. She helped with the No Place for Hate initiative. She's just always so positive and loving and optimistic. And that's for the families, that's for the staff, that's for me coming in new as a leader.
Like everything amazing that's happening at Conway, Katie McKenna is there in some role, either being an enthusiastic supporter or helping to head it up.
Katie is so deserving of this honor, whether it's on one side of the spectrum where she's just working directly with the students, and on the other side where she's meeting with families and working collaboratively with the staff members here.
She just epitomizes what excellence in education means, and that's for the families, that's for the staff, that's for me coming in new as a leader, that's for her kiddos. Just everyone just appreciates being around her and appreciates when she's able to support them.
She really is our students' biggest cheerleader, and she just does so much for the Conway community. Katie, you are so well deserved of this honor. Thank you for all that you do for us at Conway, both students and staff. I cannot think of a better person that's deserving of this award. Congratulations, you are an amazing person, educator, colleague, and friend.
Katie, you deserve this award so much. I'm so thankful for you. I'm thankful to have you as a coworker, but more importantly, I'm thankful to have you as a friend. Take a deep breath and enjoy this moment because you have deeply earned it.
Katie, congratulations on your Excellence in Education Award. Your friendship means so much to me. Knowing that you're just down the hallway to help me, it means the absolute world to me. Congratulations, you are so deserving of this award.
Katie, I want to say congratulations for winning the Excellence in Education Award. You are so deserving, and we are so glad that we get to celebrate you as our winner.
Yeah, just a little bit of extra commentary on this. So Layla mentioned, and the video mentioned, how she came from early childhood centers. She's at the elementary level. She was pulled to the high school level. What wasn't mentioned fully is just how much excellence she brought to that, and the joy and the flexibility that she had the entire time through it. I think she is pivotal to the success that we've had at Conway, just because she is so willing to just be loving and flexible and listen to others. And I think that's epitomized by how many staff members have come tonight, by how many families are here, colleagues. She makes a big difference in this community, just personally, professionally. So we are so proud of you, Katie. We are so happy for the turnout. Come on up and receive your award for the Excellence in Education.
Dr. Debbie, you're probably in the front row, right?
He'll be the same height as everybody else.
That's true. Thanks for doing that.
Kimberly and the ESOL team.
And the ESOL team. Yeah, Kate. One more team, the high school team. High school family? I would say LECC. Okay, I don't know who else is here. LECC, the high school family, everybody together?
Yeah, she works at LECC.
We're going to invite Katie now to come and say a few words. You want the microphone on?
Thank you. Okay, so I'm not really good at giving speeches and stuff. So I decided to write a poem because that's what we're doing in 3rd grade. So I am genuinely honored to be recognized today and especially proud to represent Conway. Gratitude to Donna, for she always had my back. Her guidance and support kept me on track. Appreciation to Derek and Jen for giving me this opportunity. It allowed me to join the best ESOL community. Our staff and students inspire me to be my best every day. Our Conway family rocks in every way. My admins are the best, I'm sure you agree. Many thanks to Tom Squared for their confidence in me. I'm blessed with my LECC squad, the Spady Moms, and my Conway crew. Most of all, the honor to wear Ladue blue. A special thank you to my family, Scott, Connor, and Riley. I also want to thank my in-laws for all their support. Danny, Mark, Tracy, Doreen, and Chuck are always in my court. After 18 years teaching at Ladue, I continue to find purpose in everything I do. Thank you.
That was so lovely. Okay. All right. I guess I'm up. As we move through March, I want to take a moment to recognize the dedication of our educators, staff, and students who continue to inspire excellence in our schools, especially, as was already mentioned, during conferences. We know this is a tough few weeks. This month is also a time of meaningful celebrations for many in our community. Ramadan begins on March 10th, a sacred month of fasting, reflection, and community for our Muslim students, staff, and families. We recognize the dedication and spiritual commitment that comes with this observance. On March 23rd, the Jewish holiday of Purim brings a time of joy, storytelling, and giving to others. We celebrate the values of resilience and generosity that it represents. March 25th marks Holi, the vibrant Hindu festival of colors which symbolizes the arrival of spring and the triumph of good over evil. It is a beautiful reminder of renewal, joy, and togetherness. And as we close out the month, many in our community will celebrate Easter on March 30th, a time of reflection, renewal, and hope. These diverse celebrations remind us of the strength found in our differences and unity we build through understanding and respect. We will all work to continue to foster an inclusive and supportive environment where all students and families and staff feel seen and valued. I wish everyone strength in getting through this last few days and a healthy and relaxing spring break.
Ready? Yep. Okay, I'm up next. Thank you, President Rosen. Good evening, everyone. Although we officially celebrate the Board of Education on March 26th, is everything okay?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't know if we had forgotten something. My fault.
Okay, no, you're quite all right. Because we're actually talking about this wonderful Board of Education. I want to take a moment to recognize that March is Board Appreciation Month. We are so incredibly grateful for the time, energy, and dedication each of you gives to our schools, our students, and our community. Thank you for all that you do, and we're excited for our next board meeting when we can recognize you. I also had the privilege of sitting down with a Ladue legend in Jeff Coppolo, and we had our podcast, our See, Serve, Connect podcast. If you haven't had a chance to listen, I highly recommend it. Mr. Coppolo shares some words of wisdom with everyone that I think we can all learn from. I'd also like to highlight two of our staff members who are working diligently towards their doctoral degrees at Maryville University. Leah Crawford and Natalie Dicker shadowed me this past week, and I truly enjoyed spending time with them. I can honestly say I think I learned more from them than they did from me. That is for sure. Their passion for education and their leadership is inspiring, hopeful, and I'm excited to see all that they're going to accomplish in the future. On a student side of things, we are going to celebrate one of our outstanding seniors. I don't know if you guys have seen this already, but Abby Loiterstein. Abby has been awarded a full-ride scholarship to William Woods University, where she will pursue her passion. I thought this was really cool, for American Sign Language. You don't hear that all of the time. She's on path to bridging connections and breaking barriers in the deaf community. And we couldn't be prouder. So if you get a chance to see Abby, congratulate her. I also want to share some exciting news about our early childhood program. Do we have any LCC people? There we go. Okay, so our early childhood. All right, our enrollment numbers are looking fantastic. It's no wonder why if you visit the LECC and see all those amazing teachers. But I also wanted to highlight our satellite sites at Old Bonham and Spady have very strong numbers, and the spots are filling up quite fast. This is great news for our youngest learners and their families. As a quick reminder, we have Parent University, and it's coming up April 2nd from 5 o'clock to 8:30 p.m. right here at our high school. There are some excellent sessions planned, and okay, I'm going to give a little shameless plug. Dr. Jeff Macy and I will be leading a legislative update. Doesn't that sound exciting? I'm sure everybody will want to come. Seriously, there's going to be a lot of good information there, but in all of the sessions. And then finally, as we head into spring break, I want to wish everyone a restful and enjoyable break. If you're traveling, please stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you back soon. Recharge those batteries and get ready for the remainder of the school year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Whipke. Now, we know, I say this every time, you all really love coming to board meetings. Everyone who came to congratulate Katie. If you would like to stay, you are welcome to do so. If you are feeling like you'd like to go spend some time outside on this beautiful day, now is a great time to head out. Congratulations again, Katie. As everyone's making their way out, I'll note that there is no public comment. No public comment cards have been received tonight, so we will move forward with board and committee liaison reports, if there are any.
I don't have a report, just hope to see some of my fellow colleagues in Jeff City tomorrow for Advocacy Day at the Capitol, maybe? Be there in spirit? Okay, well,
Thank you for going.
just know that tomorrow's Advocacy Day, and there's still time to sign up for the Lunch and Learns that they've been doing every other Friday. So I said, I just make that recommendation. And I'll also be attending the COSBA conference in Atlanta the week after next.
I am not going to see you in Jeff City, but I do want to thank you today for attending Jeff City tomorrow and every year for the last 3 years, correct? Yeah,
and
or
probably more
more,
often than
or
that,
7
yeah.
years, well, 3 that I know of. So thank you for doing that on behalf of not just the 6 or 7 of us up on here, but our whole community. So thanks, Keisha.
Thank you, Keisha.
How'd I do? Did I do this okay? The cupping? Okay.
And I do have a meeting scheduled with our representative, Ian Mackey, so we'll be
good for
seeing
you.
him.
I would like to know, when is that?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, when you go there, I got you.
Can we zoom in?
No, that'll be at Jeff City.
Thank you so much. Any other board or committee reports? Okay. We will move on to the consent agenda. Hopefully, everybody has had time to review that. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Keisha. Thank you, Peter. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, we have our policies. We're moving on to action. We have just a handful of policies, a large handful. Just maybe 2 hands?
So I will go ahead and go first. BBBB is the first policy, and again, this is for action. We had discussed this last time, but just as a brief snapshot, this is a policy that basically only impacts larger areas like St. Louis County, Clay, Jackson, Jefferson, and St. Charles. And if you remember, we talked about that the Board of Education could go with subdivisions and divide their district up for board members and board elections. Then we also stated this is the one that includes the 169 school days as the rule for the calendar. It mentions that residents can vote to remove a tax for transportation by a vote. That there's now a process for that. That won't impact us, though. And then it gives them information on how you could change your school name, and we're not, or your district's name, and we're not interested in that either. So we're just recommending that we accept the changes as they are.
And we'll
Do them all at once.
We'll
yeah.
vote at the end to approve all of the policies.
Okay. And then I have BDC as well. This one was the one that is requiring more oversight by the state auditor, and it made reference to the Sunshine Law. So it really relates to that there, even though now that there's more oversight, there's more things that can actually be discussed and closed to protect individuals that may have been connected to misconduct. It needs to be kept confidential. And also, it doesn't have to be just misconduct, but things like foster care and confidentiality. Foster care placements obviously will remain confidential, and so that would be enclosed. So I'm going to recommend that we just approve things as they are.
Good evening. I believe mine is next. DFI-2. Setting tuition for district programs. MSBA has actually removed this policy language that is no longer relevant, and we're actually narrowing the subset of property owners that are eligible to send their non-resident student to the district. So now it is provide proof that the parent or the trust has annually paid a minimum of $2,000 in school taxes to the school district levied on the property, and it also says that they need to do that for, I believe, 4 years. We talked about this at the last meeting, and we would ask that the board approve it as is.
All right, I have the next one, which is GCBA, Professional Staff Compensation. And this is through Senate Bill 727, and it's basically just adding in that language around hard to staff schools are hard to staff subject areas, which gives the district the leniency to be able to pay more for teachers and positions where they are hard to staff. It also has some language in there about the salary schedule and the minimums where we need to be, which we are fine on that. So I think for flexibility in this, I would recommend that we go ahead and adopt it with the MSBA recommendations.
My first one is policy IC2 on the academic calendar. This is putting in place a minimum of 169 school days, although there is current legislation that would provide special compensation for weather-related days. So recommended, yeah, come on. So that one is recommended to be accepted as written. The next one is IGBI in homeschooling, and it's just recognizing the right of families to homeschool, and families are able to provide written declaration to avoid truancy notices from the district. And again, that one is approved as recommended. And then IGCD is on virtual courses. Again, putting more protections in place that districts cannot deny a student the right to participate in virtual education. It lays out an appeal process where families can appeal to the school board, and they must be given an answer within 30 days. And it also allows an opportunity for virtual students to participate in extracurricular activities. We have amended slight language under that section that says that any resident students may participate in extracurricular activities if they're homeschooled, attend a private school, or virtual. Right now, MSHA does not allow any students not enrolled in Ladue School District to participate in MSHA activities. So that one is recommended with recommendations. And then the final one is IGCDA on the full-time MOCAP virtual courses. This again allows families to enroll directly with the provider without seeking prior approval from their home district. It also provides more responsibility on the host district to determine that the student has residency. If the student has an IEP, it's the responsibility of the host district, meaning not us. This would be like a Launch or a Springfield, that they have to initiate the IEP process. They have to inform us if a student unenrolls from their program, and then once again allows for extracurricular opportunities. Again, a student that, let's say, participates in Launch would be able to participate in Ladue extracurricular activities, but not in MSHA sports because they are technically a student of the host district, not Ladue. And then the final...
Oh, excuse me, sorry, Dr. Crabtree, I had a quick question. I don't know if this is answered in this board policy one or the previous one you mentioned. Can homeschool student, although I guess maybe not this one since this is students of our other district, can homeschool students participate in a club activity?
Yes.
All right, okay, so that policy was only affecting MSHA sports.
Right, so we changed the language that extracurricular activities, we are allowing any resident students to participate in those as a service to families that are tax-paying members, even if they don't send their children to our school district.
Okay. So even, or I guess I'm just wondering, so even if that student attends a private school, that they then can still participate in that club, if it's chess club, for example, they could come here?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And then the final one is just an update to our graduation requirements. We had language in there that we talked about at the last board meeting that at least 2 credits had to be earned at Ladue High School in order to earn a diploma from Ladue High School. Thanks to the board's recommendations, we changed that language to saying, transferring in from an accredited institution or a MOCAP approved program, the student can graduate with Ladue School District diploma. All right, so those last 2 are changes with recommendations.
Good evening. I have 3. Policy JEA, which is compulsory and part-time attendance. This policy was updated for clarity and to conform with the legal changes under Senate Bill 727 and House Bill 2287. created the term FPE, family-paced education, which is a homeschool that receives public funds through the state's tax credit program. It basically expanded the definition of homeschooling to distinguish homeschools that accept tax credit vouchers for curriculum, educational therapies, tutors, test fees, and other educational expenses. This one does not really change anything for us. It basically tells us how a parent can meet education requirements. So this one I would say as presented by MSBA. The next one is policy JED, student absences and excuses. This one, the policy is updated to mirror the language in the statute. Excuses student absences due to mental or behavioral health concerns and prohibits students' grades from being lowered due to their absences, and redefines the requirement for districts to report educational neglect, requiring school districts to report that when there is reasonable cause to suspect that a student's lack of attendance is due to the parent's educational neglect. This one is as presented as MSBA. It doesn't really impact us in any way. And then the last one, JHDF, suicide awareness and prevention. This one expands the requirements for schools to print non-emergency telephone numbers of the local police department and crisis hotline information on identification cards that are issued to students in grades 7 through 12 starting in July of this year, July 1st of this year. And our current practice right now is to post that information on our website and in various places throughout the buildings and provide the cards through CHADS. We are currently working with our photography company, and they are going to print that information on the identification cards that are issued to students when they take their school pictures. And that one is also as presented by, I forgot there's one more thing I needed to mention on that one. We will modify this one to add district social worker as a member of our crisis response team to reflect our current practice. So that one would be to, as presented by MSBA with modifications. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. Do we mandate that our students, especially in the high school and middle school, wear school IDs every day?
No, they have them on their person, but many of them carry them.
Okay, but it's not a requirement.
Policy, yep, you're right.
Thank you so much to everyone who presented. Is there a motion to approve the policies as presented by our admin team? So moved. Thank you, Jennifer.
Second.
Thank you, Keisha. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much. And Dr. Crabtree, calendar revision, our favorite topic. We have so much calendar tonight.
Thank you. Again, just asking for the board's approval on an amended calendar update to the 25-26 school year calendar. We will be changing Monday, May 4th, 2026 from a teacher work day to a student contact day. This will have the school year end one day earlier on Wednesday, May 27th. And teacher's last day will remain on Friday, May 29th. And again, this is due to accommodate the AP testing that many of our students participate in at the high school.
Any questions about the calendar adjustment? Okay.
I make a motion to approve as presented.
Thank you, Keisha.
Second.
Thank you, Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we are also making some revisions to the 25-26 board meeting calendar. So we wanted to present this information now, and then we'll vote on it next time we meet. Let me pull this up here. The first is Wednesday, October 29th. The meeting was originally scheduled for Wednesday, October 22nd, which coincides with the MSBA conference. So we are moving it to the 29th with approval. And then on March 11th, the meeting was scheduled for Wednesday, March 11th, and we are moving it back to Monday, March 9th due to parent-teacher conferences. So if you have any questions about that. Jeff, not your worry. So we will bring that back to the board at our next meeting to vote. Okay. And Dr. Macy?
Good evening again. Tonight's presentation is really an extension of the conversation that we started in January at both the board workshop and the updated budget. As the board remembers, we are moving out of phase 3 and into phase 4 of our spending parameters. And with that, there has been much thought put into entering the phase and potentially making an adjustment to account for crucial staffing needs. All right, thank you. Appreciate that, Dr. Brown. So what we have in front of us is the phase 3 parameters. And in front of you is 5 years, and the parameters are really 5 years, but the start of the next parameters are the close of this year's parameters. So we actually will move that 24-25 column over into phase 4, and that will be our starting point. And just to recap a little bit about what we talked about in the previous finance meetings, the current carryover and the way we calculate that carryover throughout the phase, we had the 1.5 million remaining from Prop L for projects that we wanted to account for. So that was money that was withheld from the carryover. There's approximately $1 million remaining in this phase, and that takes us to a total of approximately 2.5 million. So based off of this last phase, the administration was able to recapture that $2.5 million as part of the carryover. The board approved the 1.5 million for Prop L to be used for important audiovisual equipment upgrades at Reed and Conway this summer. Dr. Brown worked tirelessly on that, and I believe that we are finished with that project or wrapping it up at spring break. We are close, but we have made quite a few teachers and staff happy about that. We've received a lot of positive feedback about that, so thank you to the Board of Education. The $500,000 budgeted to address any shortfall from community-based programs in Fund 7. So we take another $500,000 out that we project maybe will be utilized for that early childhood program at the end of this year. When we take all of those deducts out, we're looking at approximately $926,000 that the administration was able to save throughout the previous phase. So we've been able to save that money. It has not been easy. We've worked on the wording in this, and post-COVID, we have definitely experienced significant inflationary pressure, but we've been able to maintain balance, and we've always been able to push, and we've been able to pull. We saw some recapture and saving of subs when our fill rate was down. We're starting to see that fill rate come up. But over the past 2 years, we have seen an approximate increase to transportation of 21%. Food service was 8%. That was a large increase there, but that contract is based off of CPI, and we all know what the price of eggs are doing right now. So we do anticipate food costs could continue to be on the rise. Liability insurance was a big one, 34% increase. Again, music is our liability provider. We pool kind of our health insurance. It's a self-funded program with 519 other school districts. We do believe that it's the way to go. It's the most economical way, but we did have a significant year in terms of catastrophic weather events that led to significant damage, which led to payouts. So we have seen that increase. Now, what I will tell you in music in the past, in a good year, we could see a coinciding decrease. So depending on the weather and kind of where we end up, it's hard to say, but we could see that number come down. There is a theory out there that the amount of storm shelters that we're building now will actually strengthen structures and lead to less damages. So there is some science to that, but we'll continue to track that closely. Cleaning services, we've increased our square footage, so we've seen a 10% increase there. And then our self-insured medical plan, typical medical trend is 8 to 12%. So even though we've been able to work through some of those operational increases, we are at a point where as a cabinet, as an administration, really as a community, we would like to address some programming needs. And having utilized a significant portion of any recaptured funds to manage those operational expenses, we're here tonight to talk about a one-time adjustment to the parameters, to provide some opportunity and to provide some space within the existing parameter structure to add some much-needed positions. And the recommendation would be to add approximately $1 million to the starting point for the next phase of the parameters, but then continue to maintain the 2.7 every year as we normally would. So it would be a one-time adjustment, but it would be similar to the budget where it would be a recurring adjustment, so that 1 million would change the ceiling, and then we would only grow that 2.7 in each year. Some of those staffing additions, and I have Dr. Helm with me here to answer any technical questions. Many of these we've talked about. We do believe that the middle school schedule change is it's a must for middle school students. It's very important. It's going to provide some opportunities for our students that the existing schedule doesn't provide. We have worked with Dr. Thompson on that, and we are at a point where that is going to be a 3.4 increase in terms of FTE. Additional safety personnel, this is where Dr. Helm was able to get creative. We actually have some positions that we're going to repurpose: 2 supervisory assistants at the high school and 1 teacher assistant position at the middle school. We would actually take those positions, we would change the hourly rate, we would move them from, I think, approximately $17 an hour to the $33, $34 range, with the intent to attract retired police officers and people that are actually in the security field. Those 3 FTEs that we repurpose would actually be supervised by Mr. Rebele, so they would be a direct report to Tim, and they would be able to provide us assistance with not only the open gate procedures in the morning, but it would provide us some additional opportunities to ensure that doors are locked, we're following safety protocols and safety procedures in other buildings.
Oh, pardon me, Dr. Macy. With that, would we maintain our current level of SRO staffing?
We would.
Okay.
And we would really maintain the same level of FTE. We would just essentially double that amount and increase it to mirror that of the change in rate from 17 to 33.
Okay. Thank you.
And would there still be supervisory assistants, or will that role be transformed altogether?
No, we still have supervisory assistants at the high school. We just, when some have resigned this year, and then at the middle school with the TA, we knew we were looking to make this change. So those positions have been unfilled right now, which again goes to some savings. And then with the purpose of repurposing them, and so we're not getting rid of people in jobs. We're just doing it through attrition.
Great, thank you.
The plan would be to still have them in the buildings, though.
Thank you.
Secondary ESL teacher, our numbers in ESL have continued to skyrocket. We know that we need secondary support. We've talked to Dr. Rismay about it on a regular basis, and we are at a point where we need to get that student-teacher ratio to a manageable point. Business teacher to account for Catalyst growth. This is another exciting opportunity. Catalyst is a cutting-edge program, and we're looking at adding in a morning session as well as an afternoon session. With the addition of that morning session, though, will come the need for that teacher to actually be at Catalyst all day. Now, there are some conversations that we're currently having to maybe account for some of this, talking to the LEF about maybe growing their contribution that they originally started when the program started, because the program has just skyrocketed in terms of student participation and student interest. The other scenario that we're looking into as well is if we begin a morning session based off of the total amount of Ladue students, we might be able to bring in additional students from other school districts. If we do that, it would be probably more cost effective for the other districts to not only pay a tuition rate for the lease of the building, but to go ahead and pay a rate for our Ladue instructor to provide instruction for those students. So we do have some conversations going on and some creative ways to maybe fund some of that catalyst, which would provide us some capacity back from an FTE perspective. Teacher assistance to support.
Sorry, Dr. Macy. So right now for the Catalyst program, the other participating districts, is there a financial contribution that they make?
Their contribution, and I'll let Dr. Crabtree correct me if I'm wrong, but their contribution is strictly to cover the cost of the lease space. So we divide that evenly amongst all of the participations with all of the districts so that everybody is contributing to the hard facility that we utilize. This would be us actually providing the educational services. Right now, I believe all of the programs have their own teachers that are coming to the space.
I see. Okay, thank you.
But we are getting interest from other districts that probably can't afford, if you only have 3 or 4 students that want to participate in it, to put a teacher there. So that's where Jeff was alluding to, tuition.
I see. Okay, and right now it's, I guess, can we share who those other districts are at that point, or is it still kind of in discussion?
So the partnership is currently with Clayton, Brentwood, and Ladue. And then University City used to participate in the original MOU. They had to pull out because they didn't have enough students to necessitate providing a teacher. And at that time, the understanding was that everyone would provide equal amounts of staffing. I think with the move now that Ladue is, providing more staffing than the other districts, we would see an increase in tuition. Clayton or Brentwood would be able to send their students to that morning session, just paying slightly higher tuition, or we could open it up to like a Maplewood, Richmond Heights, or University City, who have also expressed interest in joining the program, particularly if it doesn't mean putting forward staffing into it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
And I do think it's an opportunity to see shared programming amongst districts, which I think is something that districts are able to do based off of funding as opposed to just moving forward with open enrollment. Sorry, I just had to add that.
No, thank you.
Teacher assistants to support elementary buildings, that would be 4 teacher assistants at every elementary building. We currently work really, really hard to establish a per pupil ratio, and we've been trying to maintain 3 TAs at those buildings. But we have moved forward in a couple of situations where we've added some staffing to manage classrooms and to manage some student behaviors in order to support students. So this proposal would actually increase 2 and have 4 TAs at every elementary to start the school year, so that we could actually develop very specific programming to address the specific needs of the students and the staff in real time. So instead of waiting for enrollment to dictate that, we would be able to put those staff in place and work through some of the programs that the board has heard through some of the school presentations from the principals and creative ways that they've used those positions. Do you want to say something a little bit about that?
Yeah, so currently we have put in, and this would also include FGC, we need to look at some of their staffing too, but we've put in 3 TAs this year due to interventions that we have done. So like Old Bonham had an enrichment interventionist, Spady had one that did more around SEL, and then somebody, no, my mind's going blank. Conway's after school. So we have, through the Layla's department, we have looked at the data to see what each of the buildings need, and then have provided supports through that way. I will say that's all fine to do it after school starts, but it's really hard to find TAs at that point. So TAs typically, when you get them at the beginning of the school year, that's whenever you're getting the best quality candidates. But they would be very targeted with specific interventions, and it wouldn't just be another building support person.
So I just want to make sure that I understand. So we're adding an additional 10 TAs? Or we're adding 2?
2.
Okay. So the 2 will make 4 in every building?
It will. We currently have 4.
So we're short?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, just wanted to clarify.
4 with 3 buildings already.
Thank you.
And then the last one is a .2 high school Latin teacher. And this .2 is dictated by the numbers and the participation and I don't know if you have anything to add about that.
No, we'd still have to cut some kids, some student. So we actually have Molly Kalinsky, who's willing to teach an overage of a .2, which is really hard on teachers to do. And then even with that, though, we would still have to cut some of the course requests from Latin, which is not popular.
Perfect. Thank you. As we move into the next slide, we're going to talk about the financial impact and what those numbers look like. So again, as we move into phase 4, the final year of this phase will be the starting point. We know we talked to the board about being open to maybe making this one-time adjustment and seeking a proposal from the administration. So the proposal would be to make a one-time recurring expenditure adjustment of $1 million as we enter into the next phase, while maintaining the annual expenditure parameter rate of 2.7 annually. These adjustments would allow for the administration the opportunity to move forward with valuable programming. I know that over the past 4 years, we've talked extensively about game-changing programs and the opportunity of building capacity and putting money into the reserve and having it there at the board's discretion. If there was something that we were able to see and something that we could do that would immediately change and support some of the programming with the schools. We know that the LMS scheduling is crucial, and we think that it's going to make positive changes to our middle school. Safety and security is one of those areas where we have added an SRO, but we do believe that we are moving our programming in a way that we need additional support, and that's why we want to make sure that we provide Mr. Rebele an opportunity to have some staffing there to support with the open gate, as well as some of the other safety initiatives working throughout the day. And then the TAs will provide that behavior support, that academic support, and that additional support at our elementary schools. So in analyzing this one-time adjustment, we are still utilizing the district cash flow model. It is a very crucial tool, and it does provide us an opportunity and flexibility that we can make adjustments to key variables in real time. So understanding that there is legislation out there, and there's lots of legislation right now, but what we focused on in adjusting the model was the legislation that we know of, which is Senate Bill 190. Based off of what we've been told by our St. Louis County Assessor's Office, and they are using census data, so I wouldn't say that there's a great science behind it, but it is a science. They're using 40% of all of St. Louis County parcels as potentially being eligible. So they haven't narrowed that down to Ladue, Creve Coeur, Olivet. They're just saying 40% across St. Louis County. The other thing I would say, too, is that Senate Bill 190 is an application-based tax freeze, and that's an application-based tax freeze on an annual basis. So once a person who's 62 or above the age of 62 applies for any given year, they still need to apply for the next year. So we're still uncertain as to what that impact's going to be, because we don't know how many people have applied at this point in time. But what we did do is instead of taking that 40%, which I do believe is a little bit high, and that 40% would only impact growth. It doesn't impact our baseline revenue, so it's not going to take us backwards. It's just going to slow down how fast we can grow. And historically, what Ladue has seen, and when I go back and look, we've typically outpaced this number, but we've utilized 6.5% as our annual growth for every reassessment year. So to adjust it with the cash flow model, what we did is we backed it down to 4.5%, and that's actually accounting for a 30% reduction to our new revenue potential. But again, if we come in higher than that, that's great, but for projection purposes, it makes sense to decrease it by the 30%. The other thing that we did do is there's a lot of talk about personal property, and we saw that increase to personal property when used cars spiked, and that was an anomaly. So it's really put a magnification on personal property. So we are taking out that growth factor for personal property, and we're only putting it at 1%. And that 1% would really account for any new property that's added to somebody's tax roll based off of the purchase of a vehicle, a car, any kind of major purchase. So the following model reflects the $1 million recurring adjustment along with the variable changes to our local revenues. And I do want to say, too, that projections are just projections. Senate Bill 87 could dictate a change to how our assessment rate is perceived. Now, we did receive some good news about Senate Bill 87 today, that we feel like they're scaling backwards a little bit. But when we look at these projections, we have historically looked at them for 30 or 40 years. So what we're going to do over the next couple of years is we're going to narrow them to 5 years. And then we're going to update them every year so that we can report back to the board exactly where we are finishing in real time and what that trend looks like. So even based off of that adjustment of reducing the potential new AV from 6.5% to 4.5%, we are still experiencing a very good trend line if the board is willing and able to approve the $1 million adjustment to the parameters. And what does that look like? And this would be the phase 4 parameter sheet with the $1 million recurring adjustment made. And you see 24, 25 is our first year. We would actually increase the benchmark from 71.8 million to 74.7 million. So in that first year, you would see that typical growth rate of right around $2 million, but then you would see the addition of the, here it's $940,000 just based off of how it's growing from the original benchmark, and then how that flows through to 28, 29. And what you have underneath there is the carryover with the cumulative underspend. And keep in mind that the underspend is sometimes a little bit different than the carryover based off of any deficit that we backfill from early childhood.
So, sorry about, it's just, I guess my eyes are worse than I thought they were. In this situation, so at the end of phase 4, we anticipate, I guess, 1.237 million, I guess, so the opposite of a carryover, just in that.
So it's hard to project based off of the parameter sheet because it carries everything forward. So we wouldn't say we're projecting in 28, 29 the 1.2 million in carryover. That's just kind of where we're at right now. Because remember that 24, 25, the year that we're in right now, that's going to be the start of where we're at. So those numbers will change. I can take those out. They're just formulated, and I just kind of leave them in there so that as we flow through, we can just populate the expenditures and the revenues.
Okay, thank you. And, I mean, and just looking at that, it makes me think of, because one of the best examples of the carryovers function was last year at Conway, when the request came for the additional section of kindergarten, and that was a very easy decision because the funds were there. And just looking at that, I just want to make sure that we're setting ourselves up to be able to respond with the same kind of dexterity that we were able to last year.
Well, we're projecting approximately 900,000 in the carryover. So we would not make a recommendation to change the carryover or the carryover calculation. We would want to maintain the carryover because in any given year, there could be savings based off of the performance of the budget.
Okay, I apologize that I didn't notice that in this one to see where that 900,000 fit.
But Peter, to your point though about the Conway situation, but I will also say, we had an initiative this year, and we go all the way back to the board retreat around grow time. And I think Dr. Crabtree there would tell you that because we have a carryover, we feel comfortable not knowing what's going to happen with our budget, but we know we have a carryover. So a lot of the initiatives that you heard Dr. Helm and Dr. Crabtree talk about, we were able to feel comfortable to move forward because we knew we had a carryover if the budget didn't turn quite out right like we were hoping.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And then the other carryover expenditure was the AV equipment. And again, that was kind of coming out of COVID, but it did provide us an opportunity to reinvest that money. The other thing that's interesting about the cash flow model is the cash flow model does not account for carryover. The cash flow model actually shows the administration spending everything in real time.
Yes.
So the idea that we have the carryover too provides an additional buffer as we look at those projections moving forward.
I always love it when the blue line goes up. There's no, we've all seen the version where the blue line goes the other way. So I think this is, we've been talking about this over the past several years, I would say, and this is a very creative solution to allow us to maintain the integrity of the parameter while still giving ourselves the flexibility to to be nimble and to be responsive. So, because we talked a lot about 2.7, 2.8, 3, 1 year, 3, I think this is a really creative solution to get us where we want to be while still making sure that we are taking into account unknowns.
I was just going to say, I know that the parameters are not always a welcome favorite amongst managing the budget, but I do appreciate the stringent fiscal responsibility that it has allowed us as a district to manage our spending, as well as to make sure that we do, and because we know we typically do have carryover funds, that it allows us to expend and provide the opportunities for our students that do create game-changing opportunities for them. So my question is, I know we had talked about this once before, is the $1 million or whatever the number is only going to take place in phase 4? Because I know we talked about, like you said, we talked about when do we change it, what do we change it to? I know phase 4 going to 5 is where we kind of start over. So is this the only opportunity that we will take to make that leap and then maintain the 2.7 starting over? So then when we get to the phase 4 again, then we have, if things are where we would like them to be, we'll be able to make that jump. And in addition to that, is the $1 million enough? That's my question.
You can take the logistics, and I'll talk about the $1 million being enough.
Yeah, I would say from a logistical standpoint,
I'm talking about what her question was with the phases, right?
yeah, so we're moving into a new phase, and we felt like this was the timing to introduce a change. 4 will go to 5, 5 will go to 6. But realistically, at any point in time, if the board identifies something that's game-changing, the administration identifies something, we would be able to run the modeling to make any future adjustments based off of future needs. And I think the fact that you're going to the Legislative Advocacy Day, there's a whole world of unknowns there that we could potentially need to address financially. Now, what I will say is, based off of the parameters and the fiscal responsibility, we're poised and in position to weather and work through some of those things, where I would say some of our counterparts in St. Louis County are probably not as well equipped. So, I think from a structure standpoint, this provides a great breaking point. I think this is what we discussed as an administration, is that we want to move forward with these programs, but we also want to continue to ensure that we're examining existing program. We don't want to just add. We want to make sure that we're utilizing everything, and if something isn't being utilized, we want to make sure that we're taking a hard look at that and making sure we're responsible.
Yeah, just because I know that staffing does take up the majority of the budget, the things that you see listed are just the things that really can't be covered. Any position, when someone resigns, we are looking at it, scrutinizing it to see, like, do we really need that position? Does it need to be repurposed into something else? So just so you know, I know that there are quite a few ads on that list, but there are lots of other things that we have done to offset other changes. So I just want you guys to be aware of that also. We just felt like we were at a point where there are things that need to be added, and it just wasn't fitting in with what we were allowed with the parameter.
So Keisha, the way I interpreted your question is it a one-shot, right, opportunity to move the $1 million in and then do 2.7? Right now, that's what we're proposing, but I will say something that I've appreciated about this board is that we recognize that you cannot just lock it in, especially with where legislation is right now, one way or the other. And the other thing that I've appreciated about this board so much, that if I've said, hey, we've got a need, you guys have said, well, let's make it happen. You always have put kids first. We believe that $1 million is a great point to start with. based upon where our projections are putting things going into the future. There are some other needs in the district, but there's also, to Julie's point, there will be some things that happen that will be, one example of that is attrition, right? Every year when staff leave that have 30 plus years, then we hire folks. They're not all coming into us with 30 plus years. So through attrition, we'll be able to save some money as well. But I appreciate the question because I think it's something that we should be bringing back to this table every year and having this conversation. Where are we at? And I think Dr. Macy said that we should look at where the current numbers are. And I'm learning this is a Dr. Macy term, but in real time, right? And so to come back here once a year in real time and share that, because there will be some needs. So I really appreciate that question, and I think it's important for our community to take note. Yes, it's Board Appreciation Month, but this board always puts kids first and always makes it happen and allows us the flexibility in that. So although I feel pretty comfortable with our number, you know, and there's some things that we're still working through, I do feel like that if we needed something, we could come to you guys, and you guys would help us out with that and going through that. I will also say that, you know, one of the things that we've taken on based upon our new learning and then based upon our facilities, we really have done a game-changing program when you looked at the middle school schedule and revive. That's going to help so many kids. And with that, you all have supported over 3 teachers to make that happen. And so I think that couldn't be considered, you know, and we use that terminology a lot when we were first coming up with the cash flow model, but that can be considered a game-changing program, just like what this Board of Education did with early childhood and early childhood scholarships. We're still trying to push that, and that's why I like to talk about our numbers in early childhood, because they're growing and we're meeting families' needs. But it was a decision that this Board of Education made right around this half table, right, that we have here, or this half circle. So I feel comfortable with where we're at with the $1 million, but I do want to hold the caveat, and I would hold that caveat both ways. If things all of a sudden the senior tax freeze that's costing us more than we thought, we need to come back and talk about that. And then the reverse of that, if we're having, you know, as you guys know, I'm pretty passionate about this topic, and there's some things that we're working on behind the scenes right now around our social and emotional needs for our kids, right? And so you might hear me start talking a little bit more about that with this Board of Education and the potential to try and provide some more supports along those lines. So I think it was a really good question, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I would say too that from a financial data collection point, this year is a big year. We anticipate to receive our updated assessment information on March 15th, and that assessment information will really tell us a lot. If you know, 2 years ago we projected 6.5, and we were closer to 12.7. So you know, the conversations change based off of the data collection points, and then that non-reassessment year is pretty flat, but if you see a 12.7 or you see a 10% gain, you essentially see that gain over a 2-year period. So there would be, like Dr. Whipke said, definite opportunities for us to revisit this.
Any other questions for Dr. Macy about the parameters conversation? Thank you. You really make this very accessible and easy to understand, and I appreciate that. Okay. All right, we have come to the end of our agenda. Is there a motion to go into closed session after open session? So moved. Thank you, Keisha.
Second.
Thank you, Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And is there a motion to adjourn open session?
So moved.
Thank you, Keisha.
Second.
Thank you, Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.